Telling neurotypicals I'm autistic. I'm actually autistic. I don't think you are. Everyone's a little bit autistic. Immediate infantilizing. But you made eye contact. Telling autistic people I'm autistic. I'm autistic. We know. Hey friends, I'm Mike, a late diagnosed autistic adult. And if you or someone that you love is autistic, then you have definitely heard these reasons before. Now, I've asked both my YouTube community and my kind Patreon Discord members about your experiences. They're all in this cute pet container because it says pet storage on it. Like this is where I store all of my pets. And they're all inside this cute container. Here they are. What I'm going to do is tier rank them from S tier all the way down to D tier with a bonus extra tier at the end. We're running from D tier, which are the weakest reasons, through C tier, which I'm calling ignorant but lesser known reasons, B tier, misguided but popular reasons, and A tier, the most common but ridiculous reasons, and of course, S tier, the godly, most absurd reasons. If you've heard one that you haven't seen in this video, let me know in the comment section below and they might make their way into another video. Let's do it. Pop. You look normal. This statement is deeply flawed because it implies a couple of things. One of them is that autism is a visible disability, which it's not. And it's almost like saying, because I cannot detect your autism with my eyes, therefore you are not disabled, you do not have autism. You are not autistic. No, D tier for that one. You don't have meltdowns. Meltdowns are not the only indicator of autism, and they can also be indicators of other things. The other point is that we learn to mask. Many of us learn to hide our meltdowns from public or professional settings. D tier for that one. One more. You're too social. Okay, I'm not sure who this one was from. There's quite a lot of us in the Discord community that are actually quite social with each other. Like, there's a strange misconception that I come across quite often, which is that autism is a sort of super introversion. Like, you cannot be autistic and extroverted, of course you can't. And autistic people are all super introverted. Some autistic people like socializing with others, especially if it's around our passions and so-called special interests, even if we do find it challenging to do. Social behavior does not exclude you from being autistic. We didn't give it a tier, did we? C tier. You don't look autistic. I'm pretty sure I've done this one. No, Sally, I don't look autistic around you. I was mercilessly bullied and mocked for my autistic traits, not my autistic look. That goes in S tier. Well, your brain looks normal, so you must be faking it. This was from the YouTube community post. It was a neurologist that said that, apparently, which is why I've written it down here, like that. Such statements from medical professionals are incredibly dismissive. It's as if to say, well, I've looked at your brain scans, I didn't see anything. Well, pray tell, what were you expecting to see? What were you expecting to find? Autism is not always detectable through brain scans. There is no test for autism currently of any sort. There is no medical test for autism. Autism is a neurodevelopmental condition that involves differences in brain connectivity and function, not just structure. So I'm not sure what this neurologist was expecting to see. D tier, I think. But you make eye contact. Eye contact is often used as a sort of, you didn't make eye contact, or you're making eye contact, therefore, I know. It's kind of like a very dismissive thing. I tend to think if you hear that from a medical professional, that they are just not that educated. I mean, their training must be very out of date for someone to say something like that. It falls along similar lines as, well, you're a girl, can't possibly be autistic. Making eye contact is a skill that many autistic people learn to cope with societal expectations. In the West, I should say. The whole eye contact thing is as silly as it is regional. Like in the East, you don't make eye contact. It's seen as threatening and impolite as well. But in the West, it's seen as untrustworthy if you are averting your gaze. You didn't make eye contact, you can't possibly be autistic. It's just like saying autism is only for Americans and Europeans. It's daft. So it's going to go in B tier. Here we go. I don't know why I'm shuffling them around. They are all random. Oh, this is a good one. You didn't get diagnosed as a child. Oh, this is so similar to the, well, you don't look like my 5-year-old nephew. Many people, especially women and girls, and those with lower support needs, are diagnosed later in life, if at all. Early diagnosis is just often missed out due to varying presentation of symptoms, lack of awareness at the time, where you went to school, what country you're in, your gender, ethnicity. There's so many disparities. So I'm going to put this in C tier. I'll put this in C tier for must try better. I don't think they're deliberately trying to be invalidating. It just is. Okay, what do we got? You don't stim. Oh, great, this is a really good one. Many autistic people mask their stimming in public due to societal pressure. Stimming is a natural way to self-regulate our emotions, but it can be suppressed due to drawing attention or ridicule. Because if you are in school and you are hand flapping, let's go for a nice common one, you're going to get that bullied out of you very, very fast. If somebody says you don't stim, what they're actually saying is, you're pretty high masking. This one is going to go in A tier. Where would you put it? Are you sure? This one relates to self-diagnosis because questioning someone's diagnosis is dismissive. It's just a way of just dismissing, right? And it undermines somebody's personal experience. I'm going to put that one in C tier. This is one I had when I went to my GP. You have friends, you have family, you have a job, you can drive a car, you can do X thing that the medical professional or the other person thinks an autistic person can't do. This really is just down to a lack of awareness and just a lack of willingness to read, even to browse the pages of the National Autistic Society. Just read up, just Google for 5 minutes. It's not that difficult, really, is it? Look, if you have social connections or employment or a family, that doesn't disqualify you from being autistic. It just means that you have support or you've found ways to cope. Many autistic people work hard to maintain relationships and employment despite their challenges. Come on. Not just because this one was mine, but this one's going in A tier. Let's go. You can talk. Verbal communication varies widely between autistic people. Some autistic people are non-verbal. They don't speak. Some are intermittently non-verbal. When I was at school for 2 to 3 years, I didn't speak in school. That was not selective mutism, it was selective, I don't want to be bullied, I don't want to say anything that people will tease, so I'll just keep quiet. Some autistic people are non-verbal and do not speak. Some autistic people are very articulate. This is about support needs. It's not actually about whether or not you're autistic or not. I'm going to put it in B tier. You were fine as a child. Many autistic traits become more apparent with age, especially as life becomes more complex. I went to a primary school that had a really nice nature-wooded area. And I would go and I would sit in there and I'd sit on the floor and I'd study the grass and I'd study the plants around me. That's just not acceptable behaviour as an adult. Not something you would do at work, right? The analogy for school would be an employment somewhere. You can't just like bugger off and sit on the grass and count the grass blades or just watch stuff moving. You just can't do that. You can't decompress in that way. Acceptable ways to decompress in a workplace would be maybe sitting at your desk, eating a sandwich, maybe standing around a water cooler, getting some water or a cup of tea in the kitchen. This doesn't really cut it for a lot of autistic people, including myself. So these increased pressures, the increasing life complexity, the more stuff you've got going on, the adulting, childhood mechanisms fail. They don't always work as responsibilities and social demands increase. Simple as that. This one's going into A tier. And here we go. You're being rude. Direct communication is often misunderstood as rudeness. Autistic people may communicate more bluntly or honestly, which can be really misinterpreted by neurotypicals. This is kind of adjacent to the double empathy problem, that issue where autistics and allistics, non-autistics, struggle sometimes to communicate and have themselves be heard. Whereas within their own tribe, neurotypicals with neurotypicals, neurodivergents with neurodivergents, autistics with autistics, those barriers don't exist. This one, B tier, I think. Everybody's autistic these days. Comes down to a lack of understanding. It's a flippant comment. It's something that's often portrayed in certain political media. It's not just everyone's autistic these days, but everyone is, insert any attribute or any group here, any minority here. Everyone is these days, all doing that. It's a epidemic of autism, an autism epidemic. What would that look like? I wonder what an autism epidemic would look like. Get back to you on that. Increased awareness, increased conversation. Doesn't mean that everyone's autistic, no. But it might mean that those who wondered why have an answer all of a sudden. How's that? I'm going to put that in the E tier. Clearly everyone isn't autistic. Okay, what do we have here? You've got a great sense of humour, or you've got a sense of humour. You understand sarcasm, that sort of thing. Autistic people can have a great sense of humour. I found some wonderful autistic comics. Joe Wells, for example, absolutely fantastic. Autistic humour doesn't have to be that far different from neurotypical humour. There are some fantastic autistic comedians. Here's something that might be different. They may be self-deprecating. They might make autism jokes, or find humour in unique ways. I'm putting this one in B. Oh, you have empathy. Unbelievably, I've spoken to psychologists that have said, it's incredible, you have empathy. And it's like, what? Hang on, let's just stop here, let's roll back. What did I say or do that led you to that conclusion that gave you the cognitive dissonance? Because autistic people do feel empathy. This boils down to essentially the theory of mind. And the idea is that autistic people don't have empathy and can't understand that other people have ideas going on in their own minds. That's absolute crap. There are empathy differences in the autistic population as there are in the general population. However, autistic people can feel hyper-empathy, too much empathy. They can find themselves caught up in the emotions of others. I made a video about this last year. And it's possible that an autistic person's empathetic response, did I say that right? It can just be intense and overwhelming. This hyper-empathy, this picking up the emotions and feelings of others, the vibe in a room, it can be overwhelming for a lot of autistic people. You're acting more autistic these days. Since diagnosis or identification, you're acting more autistic. Discovering that you're autistic can lead you to become less masked. It can lead to you becoming more authentic or taking some steps towards it. Diagnosis can bring relief and the freedom. It's such a relief. It feels like you've been uncomfortable your whole life and finally you get a set of clothes that actually fit you. It's incredible and gives you that freedom to be yourself. So you start to just stretch out a little bit. This is why it's really helpful to find neurodiverse community, like the lovely people in the Discord, the Autistic Cats community, fantastic people. You're not a savant. Savant abilities are rare among autistic people. And it's not a requirement to be a savant to receive an autism diagnosis. Most autistic individuals do not have extraordinary talents, but still experience the daily challenges associated with being autistic. In my life, I've met a great deal of neurodivergent people. I've met many autistic people. I've only met one savant to my knowledge. He was an incredible mathematician. I suspect probably needed help getting dressed in the morning. Being a savant is not a requirement to be autistic. This is the Rain Man effect, which we'll talk about in another video. I'm going to put this one though in S tier. Ah, this one, you're too smart. Very similar to the savant, maybe just like a level down, who knows. But it's very much like saying, to be autistic, you have to have a low IQ, or low intellectual ability. Intelligence levels vary among autistic people, just like they do in the general population. Being smart doesn't mean that someone is autistic or isn't autistic. As autism affects social and communicative... That's my point. Autism affects social and communication skills, not intelligence. That one. This one is going to live. Autism affects social communication skills, not intelligence. This one is going to be S tier right next to the savant. We're up to our last one from the autistic captain. Let's go. Stop fidgeting. Look, fidgeting is a common way for autistic people to self-regulate and stay focused. It's kind of a form of stimming. It helps manage sensory input and anxiety, okay? We need to be a bit less judgmental, I think. And by we, I mean neurotypicals, obvs. And there it is, that's our tier list. A fun video for today. These are just a few of the comments that autistic people have levelled at them every single day. It's a fun video, but with a genuine message. Have you ever wondered what would happen if autistic people wrote the diagnostic criteria for allistics or non-autistics? Wonder no more? Click this video to find out.